Mount Kailash at 21,778 feet, or Gangs Rinpoche as it's called in Tibetan, is a mysterious mountain in the Kailash range of the Himalayas, where Hindu, Buddhist, and Bonpo followers make their pilgrimage to wipe away their sins by walking the 52-kilometer Kora. I imagine a mountain with a base of talus and scree in all colors of gray and a trail close to the mountain at its base. I know that some people cannot complete the Kora because of the altitude. The highest pass is 5,800 meters or 18,300 feet. I'm afraid I may not make it, even though a friend who did it when she was 75 years old has told me I don't need to worry, I'm fit enough. It's going to be hard. It's high as Base Camp Mount Everest. And why do I want to do it? Because I signed up, because something inside me tells me to go and dispel the mystery of the mountain. When I'm in Tibet to visit Mount Everest, I may as well. There are 8 of us on the Tibet tour, none of us mountain climbers, a few of us hikers, but most relying on overall health and fitness. I have probably hiked the most, and didn't I approach Everest in my 20s? When you cannot anticipate an experience, you just have to get started. I see the snowy mountain towering as we drive into Darchen, the nearest village. How close will I get to the base? Will this mountain have the powerful effect Everest had on me 3 days ago? After arranging for our pack horse and yaks, we go to bed early. The electricity is off anyway, and we have to get an early start in the dark the next day. The next morning, when it becomes light, it is cold, and the gray sky doesn't promise a warm hike. We wait for our pack animals in the first tea shop at the trail and drink our first of many cups of salty tea. At this altitude, a little salt and much liquid fights the dehydration that inevitably happens. The trail is a wide dirt road, easy enough for walking, but a steady rise in elevation the whole day, I was told. We start, joining groups of Tibetans dressed with leather aprons, knee pads, gloves, and face masks doing full prostrations. How long will it take them to circle the mountain, I wonder? Our group plan is 3 days of hiking, about 10 miles each day. I'm part of the group and have to stay with the group plan. The only grace is the pack horse I've hired in case I am too tired to hike. I fully expect to be the slowest of the group. I find my pace and tell my hiking buddy to walk at her pace and wait for me once in a while. I'm glad to be hiking, to see the landscape, the people and animals, and think my own thoughts. I have brought my own lunch and snacks since I'm still recovering from a bout of food poisoning. Kailash is hidden by adjacent mountains most of the day, and the emptiness of the landscape gives me the energy to keep on, keep on. When around 4 p.m. I crossed the flag-covered bridge over the glacial river Lachu to Drirapuk Monastery where we will be staying the night, I am tired, but I know my body isn't letting me down. An opening in the mountain range across from the guest house shows Mount Kailash, and we take many pictures. So here she is, a mountain that has never been climbed, a mountain the gods and holy men fought over. Who did the mountain belong to? Why does a mountain have to belong to anybody? Kailash is the origin of 3 major rivers in Pakistan, India, and China, the Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra. Life-giving rivers start here, so each culture and religion want to make its claim of ownership. Walking here, I know no one owns the mountain. I can only become its acquaintance by walking around it, seeing it, feeling my body exert itself to be here, feeling the lack of oxygen as I'm reaching for the heights. The only way I connect with the landscape is through my senses. The photo you see on the screen comes alive in my brain when I see it. I can recall the experience because the sunlight, the cold thin air, the feel of hard rock as my legs move and my feet find crumbled earth are embedded in my fiber. The delight I feel at the top of Dolma Pass is relief. Breathing will become easier, even though the rocky descent will need my focused attention. One misstep can become a slide, a painful injury, and a need for the horse. The Tibetan belief is that a new life starts at the top of this pass, and it certainly does feel like it now that I can use my body differently and my breathing eases. After the descent and tea at a tea house, I feel good enough that I send the horse and horsemen on their way and walk the level hike to Zutrupuk, the next monastery, by myself. The 5 kilometer distance turns out to be 6 miles, much longer than our guide told me it was. Wishing I could ride the horse, I fight my tiredness with the knowledge I can keep going if I put my mind to it and take rests. I have one last look from the east toward Kailash, and then I enter the long valley of the Lamchu River. I meet yaks on the trail, but they move along, avoiding my gaze. In the lingering sunlight, I arrive at the guest house at 7 p.m. The hard work of day 2 is over, the mountain no longer visible. After a late meal and dreamless night's sleep, I get up the next morning to climb up to the small monastery where Milarepa's cave can be seen. I have a strange connection to this mystery Tibetan yogi from the 11th century, as I read his poetries in the 70s and found a connection with a spiritual seeker who spoke in contemporary thought. Now I get to be in a cave where he meditated. I sit for a while with the small statue representing the yogi and feel at ease. I promise myself to reread some of his poems from the book The 10,000 Songs of Milarepa when I return to the States and accept the teachings I will get. Breakfast of eggs and pancakes fortifies us for the last half of trekking back to Darchen. The Zhongchu, a source river for the Indus, flows through the wide valley. We're still at 15,800 feet, and I hang back with a group member who has difficulty breathing to encourage her while the front runners of our group move ahead. I still have to practice my altitude breathing at times as the trail rises and falls. We arrive at the last tea shop at 11 a.m. and have another cup of salty tea before the final leg back into the village of Darchen. We drive to Manasarovara Lake, sacred to the Hindu religion, where the Ganges originates, and visit the hot springs. The Kora is complete. The next morning, Kailash Range rises over the valley covered with snow. We were lucky on our trek. I will take home an experience that will take on meaning as days pass.